Hello everyone, this is Mahmoud from Teslica eBikes. I hope you're having a 10 out of 10 day because today we're going to answer one of the most commonly asked questions. Should I invest in a 20-inch fat tire e-bike or 26-inch fat tire e-bike, and what are the differences? So today, let's dive into it. So the first thing to consider is the sizing of the e-bike. A lot of manufacturers will have the bigger size frames on 26-inch wheels, and then the smaller size frames on 20-inch wheels. So the first thing to consider is never invest in a bike if it's not the correct sizing for you. Now, assuming that sizing is good, the first difference to talk about between the 26-inch diameter versus the 20-inch diameter is what's easier to pedal. Do you want to take your guess? It's this one right here. You'll find that a bigger diameter tire is going to roll better and will be easier to pedal. So if we shut down the motor and the battery on both of these bikes and you just ride it without any power, you'll find that this will be way easier to pedal and keep momentum. However, a smaller diameter wheel, either fat tire or not, it won't carry the momentum as well. You'll find that when you stop pedaling, it's going to stop quicker and it will be harder to catch up to speeds. So if you're planning to do a lot of the pedaling yourselves and you're just using the bike for a little bit of assistance, one thing to consider is that with a bigger diameter wheel, it'll be a little bit easier to pedal. However, on this one right here, it'll be a little bit harder to pedal. The second difference that you'll see between these two diameter tires, the 26 versus the 20, is going up a hill. Now, do you want to take your guess on which one is going to go up the hill easier? You're right, it's this one right here, if you guessed it. It's this one right here. So if I was to put the same size motor, the same size battery on both of these bikes, where the difference is only the wheel diameter, you'll find that you can go up steeper hills carrying more weights on this bike versus this bike's. Because every time you reduce the wheel size, the torque output to the road ends up being much larger. So you'll end up having more torque of the same motor size, more torque on this bike compared to this bike right here. So if your commute or your ride includes a lot of steep hills, you might consider investing more in a smaller diameter fat tire bike. But if it's mainly flat and you live in an area like Manitoba where you have no hills, then this one might make the sense and give you enough torque to satisfy your needs. The third thing to consider is the weight of the bike. So if you were to compare two electric bikes that share the same design frames, where the only difference is the diameter of the wheel, 26 versus 20, you'll typically see that the 20-inch e-bike is going to be about 9 pounds lighter. So having a bigger frame size will require longer forks, longer frame, bigger frame in general, as well as more tires, because it's a bigger diameter tire, and a bigger diameter rim. If you add up all of the differences, you'll see that typically there's a 9-pound difference to a 26-inch wheel. So if you're looking to save every pound that you can, sometimes it might be worth it to consider a 20-inch wheel bike. But if you're not lifting the bike on a daily basis, 9 pounds will become almost inconsiderable, not a major factor in deciding which bike you should invest in. Range is an interesting difference between a 26 and a 20-inch fat tire bike. It's not a straightforward answer, and there are going to be instances where the 26-inch is going to give you longer range out of the same battery, and in completely different scenarios, a 20-inch is going to give you more range from the battery. So when will this give me more range, and when will this give me more range is what we're going to answer. The first thing to consider is remember that a 26-inch wheel is going to be easier to pedal if you're using your own pedaling power, right? So if you're going over, let's say, smooth terrain, relatively flat, you'll find that if you are doing most of the work yourself and using, let's say, 40% of less power from the battery, so you're doing 60% and the battery is doing 40%, you'll find in such instances the 26-inch wheel is going to give you slightly more range. However, if you're relying on more battery work than yourself, then we want to make the battery and motor more efficient, and that's going to be the case with a 20-inch wheel. So, to recap, if you're doing most of the work, you'll find that a 26-inch fat tire bike will give you more distance. However, if you're relying more on the motor, you'll find that a 20-inch fat tire bike will give you more range. Now, if you're looking more into compact e-bikes or possibly even folding e-bikes, then you're most likely looking at a 20-inch wheel fat tire e-bike. First of all, the frames are smaller and the wheels are smaller, leading to a smaller profile, which makes sense if you're going with a folding electric bike. You'll find that between the two, you'll find it's much easier finding a 20-inch fat tire e-bike on the market, but there aren't that many 26-inch folding fat tire e-bikes on the market. So we'll give a point to the 20-inch fat tire e-bikes for being more compact and possibly even folding. So, in conclusion, you'll find that a 26-inch fat tire e-bike is easier to pedal. However, sometimes it's more efficient on the battery to have a 20-inch fat tire e-bikes. You'll also find that a 26-inch fat tire e-bike is about 9 pounds lighter than the 20-inch comparison if it had the same style frame. And lastly, with a 20-inch fat tire e-bike, you'll find it more compact and possibly even folding. If you like this video and would like to learn more about electric bikes and the differences, please give us a like, subscribe, and we'll be back with more useful information. Let the ride begin.